So if you're doing acting at all, you're doing emotional preparation, you're doing any kind of thing to activate emotion, you want to be able to understand this concept. Look, amateurs use feelings. Professionals, they use emotions. Now, this is incredibly important. You must understand this. This is a must understand in terms of understanding tacting technique and understanding how to be able to work with emotions in acting. You're not working with feelings. You're working with an emotion. Now, there's a lot of correlations here. Now, I've seen over 8,000 acting classes. I remember watching over and over and over with the actors. And now, if before an acting scene as well, you see the acting actor, and you see, I know, well, they haven't gone deep enough. I can look at them with their preparation. I look at them and I go, nope, they didn't go. I'm writing it down in my notes. Like, nope, they didn't go good. They didn't catch the moment of this. It's gonna vanish. See, when you work with a feeling, you're gonna get the feeling. Yes, you're feeling a tingulation, an inclination. It's a tinglination. That's the reason why I say you want to be able to get visceral. You want to get visceral. Visceral means emotion. You want to get into emotion. You have a tingling of a sensation. You start interacting with anybody. The tingulation likely will just dissipate because you're dealing with a feeling. You've activated a feeling. You haven't actually developed something that is look, when you work with an emotion, you get feelings. You work with your emotional preparation. I like to call it, or the last step of emotional preparation is activation. You've got to absolutely activate that emotion. Sandy Meisner used to always say that you've got to pinch out the emotion. You've got to pinch. You go around pinching actors, to be able to try and teach that lesson to them. The reason why that's important is because you've got to be able to remember you're pinching out an activation. You're activating an emotion to be able to get that working and floating and flooding out of yourself. You're not working so that you can try and have something that's a suspicion or an inclination or a tingulation. You want to have something visceral. You want to have something that's emotional. You want to be able to know that when you relax, when you got the emotion, and you're doing your emotional preparation, your emotional activation, you relax and you will notice that the emotion will actually go a little deeper. That is when you know you have an emotion, you don't have a feeling. This is a critical mistake that actors make, and it is easy to fix as long as you know how to do it. And it takes many years, sometimes, for actors to discover this on their own. And you don't need to spend that time wasting yourself working very, very hard at acting, but yet you're finding the wrong thing in your emotion. You want to be able to find not a tingulation. You don't want to find something that's light. You don't want to find a feeling. You don't have a feeling that the person to be able to walk into a scene. You're working at an acting scene. You want to be able to walk in with an activated, full, tangible, depth, visceral emotion. You want to have something that you're walking in with a presence of whatever that emotional resonation is. It could be anger, sadness, despair. It could be elated happiness. You could have just won the lottery and you walk in and you're like, that's your excitement. But you don't want to just have a feeling of it. You don't want to have a feeling that you won the lottery. You want to have an inclination. We're not dealing with flirting with the emotion. We're dealing with actually having it activated authentically in ourselves. Now, so emotions are critical component. Once you are able to activate yourself beneath the feeling level, you have your emotion activated. Then you can walk in and the emotion will automatically start to merge through your acting interaction, through just listening and receiving, through receiving the other actor, through your being. Your being there is going to bring in the emotion. The emotion at that point follows you through the door. That's what you're looking to be able to do. Now, amateurs, amateurs, and some very, very, very big names I would call amateurs with their emotional preparation. And I'd be totally right to do that. And I'm not picking on anybody, especially anybody who I've seen in over the 8,000 acting classes. I'm just saying, as plain as day, if I see somebody and I'm teaching and I see that they're only getting a feeling or an inclination, I'm going to stop them and say, hold on a second. And people are going to be like, what? We could see maybe they have a feeling. Well, yeah, they might have a feeling, but they don't have an emotion. That means that as soon as they start their acting interaction, as soon as they start receiving something from somebody else, their feeling is going to dissipate. Now, this is also just the strangest thing with the, it's almost like relationship advice in life, or attraction and repulsion in life, or you're dealing with the law of attraction. Because if you have a feeling, you have a feeling, but then when you go to do the thing, the feeling dissipates. Well, that's because you don't have an emotion. You don't have an emotion when you go to do the thing. The emotion wasn't activated. You just had a feeling, or you just had a thought, or you just had an idea. It was something that was more superficial. And it's very easy to make these mistakes, and it's very simple to correct them. So remember this. Look, amateurs use feelings. Professionals use emotions. Now, professionals will use emotions and work very, very hard with emotional preparations, emotional activations. They understand that they are working at a deeper, deeper level. Check later on, I will have the emotions triangle video. I'm going to go through and explain that again. It literally is that there's a triangle of thoughts, ideas, then there's feelings, then there's emotions. And when you work through your thoughts, sometimes it's other people's thoughts, then you work through your own thoughts, then you get into tingulations, inclinations, you get into your feelings. Then when you work deep enough within a subject matter, then all of a sudden you start to get an emotion. That's what you want to get. It doesn't matter if you're working with anger. It doesn't matter if you're working with sadness. It doesn't matter if you're working with despair. It doesn't matter if you're working with rage. You want to be able to find that. And you're not looking to be able to find, see, when you get an emotion, you're not talking about getting something that's extreme. It could be a subtle emotion, but the emotion is in you deeper. So these are all fantastic things about acting, how to be able to get this done. Remember that amateurs use feelings, even when they're professionally working. But professional actors, the real professionals, whether they're getting jobs or not, they actually will use their emotions. Thanks very much. Check out my books. Thanks so much. Bye.